Course 3, Lesson 56, we are looking at the slope-intercept equation of a line. Well, the slope-intercept equation is shown by y equals mx plus b. This is how we can represent our lines. The m represents the slope, b represents the y-intercept, and x and y stay as x and y because those are my variables that I don't need to replace with anything right now because they are going to be replaced later on with different numbers so we can graph our line. But I do need to know the slope and y-intercept. So with an example, if the slope is 1/2 and the y-intercept is -1, what does the equation look like? So that 1/2, that's my m. So that's going to replace that m right there. And -1 is my y-intercept, so it's going to replace the b. So when I write my equation, I'm going to write it as y equals 1/2 x, because x and y stay as x and y, and then plus a -1. Or I can write it more simply as 1/2 x minus 1. All right, this is my slope-intercept equation. And now when I have a graph, I'm going to need to find that slope and y-intercept in order to find out what this is. And we see the y-intercept, that's where it crosses the y-axis. So we say that's 0, b equals 0. And then we look at our slope. Well, it looks like it goes right through these points. So we're going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. That means that I have a rise of 1 and a run of 1, so we have a slope of 1. Which means we can plug both of these in to say y is equal to 1x plus 0, but more simply, adding 0 doesn't change anything, and multiplying by 1 is still going to be x. So we end up with just y is equal to x. Let's try another one. Well, and just notice how if we have the same slope here of 1, and we change the y-intercept, it just changes it by that y-intercept, that plus 2. All right. And let's find the graph of this equation. So let's first start with the y-intercept. Always start with the y-intercept, and we say that it's 0. And the slope here, well, it goes through these points here. So when I make my slope triangle, I see that I go up 2 and over 1. So a rise of 2 and a run of 1. Or we could go left and down, so -1 and -2. So a rise of -2, a run of -1. So we just get 2 in each of these. So we have a slope of 2. A y-intercept of 0, so we plug it in and we say we have 2x plus 0, or just y is equal to 2x. All right. Another one. If we look, our y-intercept is 2, and then we say, what is our slope? Because it doesn't rise any. We have a rise of 0, but it runs infinitely. Let's say it runs 5, or it runs 2. Regardless, we find that our slope is 0. When we plug it into our equation, we get 0x plus 2, so really y is equal to 2. Horizontal lines, their equations are going to look like this. Y is equal to that y-intercept. So if we had a line right here, we would say y is equal to -3. Or right here, y is equal to 0. Because that slope is 0, we don't have that x variable anymore. We just have the y-intercept. All right, think about the equation y equals 2/3 x minus 4. Where does the graph of the equation cross the y-axis? Well, that comes with this b. So it means that it crosses at -4. And does the line rise to the right or fall to the right? Meaning, is this a positive or negative slope? And we have a slope of 2/3, which means it's a positive slope, so it rises to the right. And if we were to graph this, let's see. Let me just grab a graph really quick. All right, so when we graph this, I can use these two things to graph my equation. And I have a y-intercept of 4. We'll always start at the y-intercept, and then we're going to rise 2, run 3. Or we can fall 2 and go left 3. And we have my line. All right, so start with the y-intercept and then plot your slope. Let's try it again. You can try this one on your own because I would like to try graphing this one. We have a y-intercept of -3 and a slope of 2. But that slope, that's just a number. So what is it in fraction form? Well, it's 2 over 1, which will help us with our rise over run. So we plot our y-intercept, and then we rise 2, run 1. Rise 2, run 1, all the way across the page. And we have my line. That's as simple as it is. So y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2. Our y-intercept is 2, and then we have a slope of negative 1 over 2, which means I'm going to be falling to the right. So I'm going to go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2. Or up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2. Whenever you do your slope, remember, we need to make sure that it ends up negative if we have a slope that's negative, and that don't mix up your right and left. If I have a negative slope, I can have one of the negative parts, so one down or left rather than both of them together. So in this case, I wouldn't go down and left at the same time. Well, I hope this is helpful for your homework and for studying.